Your sister married into the Blackstone family, Dad said. Don't come to Christmas. At the party they introduced me as the failure. Richard Blackstone stood. Director Williams? Your $820 million nonprofit is transforming communities. Dad's face went white. But let me tell you how I became the family disappointment who secretly ran one of the largest educational nonprofits in the country. I'm Maya Williams, 38 years old. My sister Natasha is 41. We grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, the kind of upper-middle-class suburb where your college matters more than your character and your salary defines your worth. Our parents, Robert and Diana Williams, were both corporate executives. Dad was a VP at a pharmaceutical company. Mom was a marketing director. They lived for appearances, the right neighborhood, the right cars, the right country club membership. Natasha understood the assignment perfectly. She went to Princeton, got her MBA from Wharton, married a Goldman Sachs analyst named Derek. They had the American dream on paper. $2.3 house in Potomac, matching Range Rovers, annual trips to St. Bart's. I was the problem child. I went to UVA on a partial scholarship, not prestigious enough for Dad. I majored in social work. A poverty degree, Mom called it. After graduation, I worked for a small nonprofit helping kids in underserved communities access educational resources. Starting salary, $32,000. Maya's doing charity work. Mom would tell her friends the way you might say Maya's collecting garbage. Dad was more direct. When are you going to get a real job? This is a real job, I'd say. Real jobs have six-figure salaries. Real jobs have career trajectories. You're 23 years old making $30,000. That's not a career. That's a hobby. I didn't argue. I learned early that arguing with my father was like arguing with a brick wall. Painful and pointless. What my parents didn't know, what they never bothered to ask about, was that I was good at my work. Really good. Within 2 years I'd restructured our entire program model. Secured 3 major grants. Doubled our student enrollment. The executive director noticed. Maya, have you ever thought about leadership? I'm a social worker. I help kids. You could help more kids if you were making organizational decisions. At 27 I became director of programs. At 30 executive director. At 32, I merged 3 struggling nonprofits into one organization with a unified mission, closing the educational opportunity gap for low-income students. We called it Bright Futures Initiative. My parents thought I was still making $40,000 at that little charity. In reality, I was running a $820 million organization with programs in 43 states, partnerships with 15 universities, and a staff of over 200 people. We'd helped more than 500,000 students access college prep resources, scholarship funding and mentorship programs. My salary was $285,000. Not that I cared about money. I lived in a modest townhouse in Arlington, drove a 7-year-old Subaru, wore clothes from Target. Every extra dollar went back into the organization. But I kept quiet about my success. Not because I was ashamed, because I knew my family. If I told them about Bright Futures, Dad would say I was wasting my education. Mom would ask why I wasn't making real money in corporate America. Natasha would find a way to make it about her. So I let them think I was a low-level nonprofit worker making poverty wages. It was easier than the alternative. Natasha, meanwhile, had become insufferable after her divorce from Derek. She traded up, married a man named Stephen Whitmore whose family was old money. Not just rich, generationally wealthy. The kind of wealth that came with trust funds, vacation homes, and memberships to clubs that didn't have websites. She called me the day after the engagement. Maya, I'm marrying into the Whitmore family. Do you know what that means? That you love Stephen? It means I'm going to be part of something that matters. Stephen's family knows everyone. Senators, CEOs, foundation presidents. His parents manage a $2.1 billion private equity fund. That's impressive. Impressive? It's transformative. This is what success looks like, Maya. This is what happens when you make smart choices instead of wasting your life on charity cases. I said nothing. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand. When you meet Stephen's family, you need to be on your best behavior. Don't talk about your nonprofit work. Don't mention money or lack of it. Just try not to embarrass me. I'll do my best. I'm serious, Maya. Stephen's parents are sophisticated people. They donate to real organizations, museums, hospitals, universities. Not little community groups. I can't have them thinking the Williams family is ordinary. The wedding was elegant, expensive, exclusive. I wore a dress from Macy's. Natasha wore custom Vera Wang. The reception was at a private estate with 200 guests who all looked like they'd stepped out of a yacht club catalog. I met Stephen's parents briefly. Richard and Patricia Blackstone. Silver-haired, impeccably dressed, the kind of people who radiate old money. Maya, lovely to meet you, Patricia said. Natasha mentioned you work in nonprofits? Yes, ma'am. Educational access. How noble, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We didn't speak again that night. Over the next 3 years, Natasha's identity became completely wrapped up in being a Blackstone. She joined boards, not because she cared about the causes, but because that's what Blackstone women do. She hosted fundraisers, attended galas, posted Instagram photos with captions like, "Grateful to give back," next to pictures of her in $5,000 gowns. She also talked about the Blackstone Foundation constantly. Stephen's parents manage $2.1 billion in investments, she'd say at family dinners. Their foundation gives away $50 million annually. Can you imagine having that kind of impact, Maya? I could imagine. I saw it every day. But I said nothing. Last month, Natasha called with an announcement. We're hosting Christmas at the Blackstone estate this year. The whole family, Stephen's parents, his sister, everyone. That sounds nice. It's not just nice, Maya. It's important. Richard and Patricia want to get to know our side of the family better. This is a big deal. I'm happy to come. There was a pause. Actually, I need to talk to you about that. About what? About you coming. She took a breath. Maya, I love you. But I need you to understand, Stephen's family is used to a certain level of success. They respect achievement, ambition, excellence. And you? What? You're a social worker making probably $50,000 a year. You drive a Subaru. You live in a tiny townhouse. And that's fine for you, but what? But I can't have Stephen's parents thinking this is what the Williams family is. That we're people who settle for mediocrity. The words hung between us. Are you uninviting me from Christmas, Natasha? I'm asking you to understand. This is the most important relationship of my life. I need Stephen's family to respect me. To see me as an equal. Having you there talking about your little nonprofit wearing your Target clothes, it undermines everything I've built. I see. Do you? Because this isn't about you, Maya. This is about me. About my marriage. About my place in this family. So I shouldn't come. I think that would be best. I hung up without saying goodbye. 2 days later, Dad called. Maya, your sister told me about Christmas. Did she? She's right, you know. The Blackstones are important people. This is a significant opportunity for our family to make connections, build relationships. We can't have you there being yourself. Being myself. You know what I mean. The nonprofit work, the modest lifestyle. It's admirable in its own way, but it's not impressive. The Blackstones donate to Harvard, to the Kennedy Center. They're not going to understand your little community programs. My little community programs. Maya, don't be difficult. You've made your choices. You've chosen a path that prioritizes feeling good over doing well. That's fine. But the rest of us have to live in the real world, where perception matters. Is that all, Dad? I'm saying this because I care about you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step aside. Let the successful members of the family shine without your situation casting a shadow. I hung up on him too. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was that the Blackstone Foundation was Bright Futures Initiative's second largest funder. We'd started working with them 4 years ago. Richard Blackstone had attended one of our program showcases, a student presentation where kids from our program talked about how educational access had changed their trajectories. He'd approached me afterward. Ms. Williams, I'm Richard Blackstone. What you've built here is extraordinary. Thank you, Mr. Blackstone. Tell me, what's your budget? We're currently operating at about $400 million annually. His eyebrows rose. $400 million? From a program I've never heard of. We keep a low profile. Our focus is impact, not publicity. Smart. He studied me. The Blackstone Foundation funds educational initiatives. I'd like to learn more about your work. That conversation led to a site visit. Then a proposal. Then a $15 million grant. Over 4 years, the Blackstone Foundation had given Bright Futures $73 million. They'd connected us with other donors, opened doors to university partnerships, helped us scale programs that were transforming lives. Richard Blackstone and I spoke quarterly to review outcomes. He told me repeatedly that Bright Futures was his foundation's highest impact investment. Patricia Blackstone served on our advisory board, though she attended meetings virtually and we'd never publicized her involvement per her request for privacy. When Natasha married Stephen, I'd wondered if I should mention the connection. Decided against it. My work didn't need to be currency in family politics. But after being uninvited from Christmas, something shifted. I wasn't angry. I was tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being the family embarrassment. Tired of watching Natasha build an identity around money and connections while I actually did the work she pretended to care about. I called Richard Blackstone's office. His assistant put me through immediately. Maya, good to hear from you. I was just reviewing your Q4 impact report. The college enrollment numbers are remarkable. Thank you, Richard. I'm actually calling about something personal. Oh. I understand you're hosting Christmas this year. That my sister and her family will be there. Yes, Stephen mentioned his in-laws would join us. I'm looking forward to meeting them properly. I took a breath. Richard, I need to tell you something. Natasha is my sister. Stephen is my brother-in-law. Silence. Your sister, he repeated slowly. Natasha Whitmore is your sister. Yes. Does she know about your work? About Bright Futures? No. My family thinks I'm a low-level social worker making about $50,000 a year. Why would they think that? Because I've never corrected them. And they've never asked. More silence. Then, Maya, forgive me for being direct, but why are you telling me this now? Because Natasha uninvited me from Christmas. She said my presence would embarrass her in front of your family. That my little nonprofit and my modest lifestyle would make the Williams family look mediocre. I see. His voice had gone very quiet. And your parents? Agreed with her. Said I should step aside and let the successful family members shine. The successful family members, he repeated. The woman who runs an $820 million organization that we consider our foundation's highest impact investment is being excluded for not being successful enough. Yes. That's. He stopped. Maya, what do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you should know that we're related. In case it comes up. In case it comes up, he said. Maya, would you like to come to Christmas? Richard, I don't want to create drama. You wouldn't be creating it. You'd be revealing it. There's a difference. He paused. Patricia and I would be honored to have you as our guest. The woman who's helped us deploy $73 million to change 500,000 lives deserves a seat at our table. Natasha will be furious. Natasha, he said carefully, needs to learn that success isn't about who you marry. It's about what you build. I arrived at the Blackstone estate on Christmas Eve at exactly 6 p.m. The house was stunning. A sprawling colonial on 20 acres in McLean, Virginia. Old money beautiful, not new money flashy. I wore a simple black dress, still Target, but it fit well and looked appropriate. I carried a bottle of wine and homemade cookies from my favorite bakery. A valet took my Subaru keys without judgment. Richard Blackstone opened the door himself. Why? Welcome. Richard. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming. Patricia is eager to finally meet you in person. He led me into a living room decorated with understated elegance. Real tree, classic ornaments, nothing gaudy. About 15 people mingled with cocktails. I saw Natasha immediately. She was holding court near the fireplace, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my car. Stephen stood beside her looking polished and attentive. My parents were there too. Dad in his country club blazer, Mom in pearls and a forced smile. Natasha saw me. Her face went white then red. She crossed the room in 6 angry strides. What are you doing here? Richard invited me. Richard? Mr. Blackstone invited you? Why would he? She looked around frantically. You need to leave. No. Before his parents see you. I'm not leaving. Maya, I swear to God if you embarrass me. Natasha. Richard's voice cut through her panic. I invited your sister. She's welcome in my home. Natasha turned to him, forcing a smile. Mr. Blackstone, I'm so sorry. There's been a misunderstanding. Maya wasn't supposed to. There's no misunderstanding. Maya and I are colleagues. I wanted her here. Colleagues. Natasha's confusion was genuine. What do you mean, colleagues? We work together. She runs the educational nonprofit My Foundation funds. Natasha laughed nervously. No, Maya works for a small community group. She's a social worker. I'm executive director of Bright Futures Initiative, I said quietly. We're an $820 million organization operating in 43 states. The Blackstone Foundation has funded our work for 4 years. The color drained from her face. My father appeared at her elbow. What's going on? Dad, this is Richard Blackstone, Natasha said weakly. Stephen's father. Dad extended his hand, his sales smile in place. Robert Williams. Pleasure to finally meet you properly. I understand your foundation does remarkable work. We try, Richard said. Though we're only as effective as the organizations we fund. Like Bright Futures Initiative. Are you familiar with Maya's work? Dad's smile faltered. Maya's work. Your daughter's nonprofit. The one transforming educational access for 500,000 students. I think there's some confusion, Dad said. Maya works for a small nonprofit. Entry-level position. Entry-level, Richard repeated. Robert, your daughter is the executive director of one of the most effective educational nonprofits in the country. She's built an organization that serves more students than most state education departments. Mom had joined us now, sensing trouble. Mr. Blackstone, Maya is very dedicated to her charity work, but I think you might be confusing her with someone else. I'm not confused. Richard's voice was firm. I've worked with Maya for 4 years. I've visited her programs, reviewed her outcomes data, watched her present to our foundation board. She's brilliant, strategic, and has accomplished more before 40 than most executives do in a lifetime. The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Natasha found her voice. That's impossible. Maya doesn't, she can't, she makes $50,000 a year. I make $285,000, I said calmly. Plus benefits. My organization's operating budget is $820 million. We've helped 500,000 students. We have partnerships with 15 universities and programs in 43 states. You're lying, Natasha whispered. I'm not. But you never said, you let us think. You never asked. You assumed I was a failure because I didn't work in corporate America. You assumed I was poor because I drive a Subaru. You never once asked about my actual work. Patricia Blackstone appeared beside her husband. Maya, so good to finally meet in person. Our advisory board meetings don't do you justice. Natasha's mouth fell open. Advisory board? Patricia serves on Bright Futures Advisory Board, I explained. Though we keep her involvement private per her preference. Mom made a small sound. Dad just stared. Stephen, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. Natasha, you told me Maya worked at a community center. I thought she did. You thought or you wanted to think? Patricia's voice was gentle but pointed. Did you ever ask her about her work? Visit her organization? Show interest in what she does? Silence. Maybe we should sit down, Richard suggested. Dinner will be ready soon. The dining room table sat 20. Richard directed me to a seat beside Patricia, near the head of the table. Natasha and Stephen were farther down. My parents were in the middle. It was a deliberate seating arrangement. A statement. During appetizers, Richard addressed the table. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Family is about more than blood. It's about recognizing and celebrating each other's achievements. Speaking of which, he turned to me. Maya, would you tell everyone about the new scholarship program you're launching? All eyes turned to me. I took a breath. We're launching a national scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Full-ride scholarships, tuition, room, board, books, stipend for living expenses. We're starting with 500 students annually and scaling to 2,000 within 5 years. What's the funding commitment? Asked a man I recognized as Stephen's uncle. $200 million over 10 years. The Blackstone Foundation is our anchor funder with a $50 million commitment. Natasha's fork clattered against her plate. 50 million, my father said weakly. That's just their portion, I continued. We've secured commitments from 7 other foundations. The program launches next fall. Patricia smiled. We're thrilled to partner on this. Maya's vision for removing financial barriers to education aligns perfectly with our foundation's mission. Mom found her voice. Maya, why didn't you tell us about this? When would I have told you, Mom? During the dinners where you introduced me as the one who never made anything of herself? Or maybe during the holidays when Dad asked when I was getting a real job? The table went silent. That's not fair, Dad said. We've always supported you. Have you? Name one program I run. One accomplishment I've achieved. One thing about my work that you actually know. Silence. You can't, I said quietly. Because you've never asked. You've spent 15 years assuming I'm a failure because my success doesn't look like yours. Natasha was staring at her plate. Stephen looked uncomfortable. But here's what's really interesting, I continued. You uninvited me from Christmas because you were embarrassed of me. Because you thought I'd make the family look mediocre in front of the Blackstones. You wanted to hide me so the successful family members could shine. Maya, Mom started. Meanwhile, the Blackstones have been funding my work for 4 years. They've given my organization $73 million. Patricia serves on my advisory board. Richard calls me quarterly to review our impact data. The family you wanted to impress already knows me. They respect my work. It's their foundation's highest impact investment. Dad's face had gone from white to gray. So who exactly is the successful family member you wanted to shine? I asked. The sister who joined boards for status? Or the one who built an $820 million organization that changes lives? Natasha stood up abruptly. I need to talk to my sister. Alone. Natasha, Stephen began. Alone. Richard gestured to a side room. The study is available. Natasha practically dragged me down the hall. Once the door closed, she turned on me. How could you do this to me? Do what? Humiliate me. Make me look like an idiot in front of my husband's family. I didn't make you look like anything. You did that yourself. I uninvited you to protect you, she shouted. To protect you from feeling inferior around successful people. Or to protect yourself from having your carefully constructed image shattered? She flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Natasha, you've spent 3 years building an identity around being a Blackstone. Around having access to their wealth, their connections, their foundation. You've posted photos at galas, bragged about their donations, acted like their success is yours. I'm Stephen's wife. Which makes you Stephen's wife. Not a philanthropist. Not an executive. Not someone who actually does the work. I'm on 3 nonprofit boards. Are you? Or do you just attend luncheons and sign checks with Stephen's money? Her face crumpled. You don't understand what it's like. Growing up in your shadow. My shadow? Natasha, you were the golden child. Princeton. Wharton. The perfect marriage. The perfect-looking marriage. To a man who cheated on me with his secretary. While you were off changing the world, I was trying to figure out who I was without a successful husband defining me. She sank into a chair. Then I met Stephen. Met his family. Saw a chance to be part of something that mattered. Something bigger than myself. But you're not part of it. You married into it. There's a difference. I know, she whispered. God, Maya, I know. But I didn't know how to be impressive on my own. How to matter without writing someone else's achievements. So I married the Blackstone name and told myself that was enough. And I was your cautionary tale. The sister who chose wrong. Who wasted her potential. I needed you to be that. Needed to believe that my choices were better than yours. She looked up at me. But they weren't, were they? You've been doing actual good while I've been pretending. You've built something real while I've been playing dress up at galas. Natasha. How much do you make? What? Your salary. How much? $285,000. She laughed bitterly. I'm living off Stephen's trust fund. I don't make anything. I'm 41 years old and I'm essentially unemployed. You could change that. Could I? What am I qualified to do, Maya? I have an MBA I haven't used in 10 years. Board memberships I only have because I'm a Blackstone. No actual skills, no real experience. I'm a professional wife. That's not true. It is. She stood up. And the worst part? I could have been asking you for advice this whole time. Learning from you. But I was too busy pretending you were the failure. The door opened. Stephen stood there. Everything okay? No, Natasha said. But it will be. We returned to the dining room. The main course had been served. People were making careful small talk. Natasha stopped at the head of the table. Can I say something? Richard nodded. I need to apologize. To Maya primarily, but to everyone here. He took a breath. I uninvited my sister from Christmas because I was embarrassed of her. I told her she'd make our family look mediocre. That her work, her little nonprofit, wasn't impressive enough for this crowd. Stephen was watching her carefully. I did this because I've built my entire identity around being a Blackstone. Around access to this family's wealth and success. And I needed Maya to be less than me so I could feel successful. Her voice broke. But she's not less than me. She's extraordinary. And I've been too insecure to see it. Mom was crying. Dad looked like he might be sick. Maya has spent 15 years building something that matters while I've spent 15 years pretending to matter. She's helped 500,000 students while I've attended luncheons. She's earned respect while I've married into it. Natasha looked at me. I'm sorry. For everything. For making you small so I could feel big. For never asking about your work. For being too threatened by your success to celebrate it. I didn't know what to say. Patricia spoke into the silence. Natasha, it takes courage to acknowledge our insecurities. Even more to admit them publicly. I don't feel courageous. I feel ashamed. Shame can be productive, Patricia said gently. If it motivates change. Natasha nodded. Sat down. Stephen took her hand. My father cleared his throat. Maya, I owe you an apology too. Your mother and I have failed you as parents. We've measured success by salary and status instead of impact. We've dismissed your work without understanding it. That was wrong. Very wrong, Mom added, wiping her eyes. Sweetheart, we're so sorry. Are you? I asked quietly. Or are you sorry that you looked foolish in front of the Blackstones? Dad flinched. That's fair. Because if you're only apologizing because you got caught, that's not an apology. That's damage control. No, Dad said. You're right. We've been terrible. Dismissive. We've treated your life's work like it's a hobby. We've compared you to Natasha's corporate jobs and found you wanting. We never bothered to learn what you actually do. Why not? He thought about it. Because it was easier to assume you were struggling than to confront our own narrow definition of success. What does your organization do? Mom asked suddenly. Actually I want to understand. So I told them. I told them about Maria, who grew up in poverty in rural Virginia and is now a doctor because Bright Futures helped her access AP classes and college prep resources. I told them about David, whose single mother worked 3 jobs and couldn't afford SAT tutoring. We provided it free. He's at MIT now. I told them about our college success coaches who help first-generation students navigate financial aid, about our scholarship programs, about partnerships that provide free textbooks and laptops. I told them about the 500,000 students whose lives had changed because we believed education should be accessible regardless of zip code or income. By the time I finished, Mom was crying again. Dad looked stricken. $820 million, he said quietly. You're responsible for $820 million. I'm responsible for 500,000 students. The money is just the tool. Richard raised his glass. To Maya Williams, who understands that true success is measured in lives changed, not dollars accumulated. Everyone raised their glasses, except Natasha, who was staring at her plate. Natasha, Stephen said gently. She looked up, raised her glass. To my sister, who's everything I pretended to be. After dinner, Patricia pulled me aside. Walk with me. We went to the conservatory, a beautiful glass room full of plants and comfortable seating. You handled that with remarkable grace, she said. Did I? I feel like I dropped a bomb. You revealed the truth. The bomb was already there, you just made it visible. She settled into a chair. Richard and I have been concerned about Natasha. Concerned how? She joined our foundation's gala committee last year. We were pleased, thought she genuinely cared about our work. But over time, we realized she was more interested in the social aspects than the actual mission. She never asked about outcomes, never engaged with the substance. Just wanted her photo taken with donors. That sounds like Natasha. We've seen it before. People who marry into philanthropic families but never do the work. They attend events, serve on boards, put their names on donor walls. But they don't understand what we do or why it matters. She's trying, I offered. Is she? Or is she trying to maintain her image? Patricia studied me. Maya, can I be frank? Of course. Natasha reminds me of who I was at her age. Beautiful, connected, married to wealth. I sat on boards because Blackstone wives sat on boards. I hosted fundraisers because that's what was expected. I never asked why. What changed? I visited a program we funded. Saw actual children whose lives were changed by our investment. Met a girl who reminded me of my daughter. Same age, same intelligence, but born into poverty instead of privilege. That girl changed my perspective. What happened to her? She graduated from Yale. She's a pediatrician now. Works in underserved communities. Patricia smiled. I still get Christmas cards. Her daughter just turned 5. That's beautiful. It's meaningful. And it taught me that philanthropy without engagement is just vanity. She looked at me directly. Your sister needs to learn that lesson. The question is whether she's capable of learning it. I think she is. Maybe. I hope you're right. For her sake more than ours. Patricia stood. Richard and I want to increase our commitment to bright futures. 73 million has been transformative, but we can do more. Patricia, that's incredibly generous, but we're thinking 50 million annually for the next 5 years. 250 million total. Enough to triple your scholarship program and expand to all 50 states. I couldn't speak. Assuming you're interested, she added with a smile. Interested? Patricia, that would change everything. We could help millions more students. Then let's make it happen. We'll discuss details after the holidays. For now, enjoy your evening. And Maya? Thank you for trusting us enough to come tonight. Thank you for inviting me. When I returned to the living room, my parents were talking quietly with Richard. They saw me and stood up. Maya, Dad said. Can we talk? Outside maybe. We went to the terrace. It was cold but clear, stars visible despite the suburban lights. I don't know how to fix this, Dad said. Fix what? 15 years of being a terrible father. Of dismissing your work, your choices, your life. I've been so focused on conventional success that I couldn't see actual achievement right in front of me. Why, Dad? Why did you need me to fit your definition of success? He thought about it for a long time. Because I'm a mediocre man who achieved mediocre things. VP at a pharmaceutical company. Sounds impressive, but I topped out at middle management. Never made it to C-suite. Never built anything lasting. The only thing I could claim was that I raised successful daughters. You did raise successful daughters. No. I raised one daughter who chose conventional success and one who chose meaningful success. I celebrated the first and ignored the second because... He trailed off. Because what? Because your success highlighted my failure. You built something that matters. Something that will outlive you and change lives for generations. What have I built? A comfortable retirement and a country club membership. Mom took his hand. Robert. It's true, Diana. We've been living vicariously through our daughters' achievements instead of being proud of our daughters themselves. Natasha's success made us feel successful. Maya's success made us feel inadequate. So you dismissed it, I said quietly. Yes. He looked at me. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because I looked foolish tonight, but because I've wasted 15 years being proud of the wrong things. What will you tell people now? I asked. When they ask about your daughters? He smiled sadly. The truth. That Natasha is figuring out who she is beyond her marriage. And that Maya runs one of the most effective educational nonprofits in the country. That I'm proud of one daughter for her courage and the other for her impact. That's a start, I said. Mom hugged me. I want to visit your organization. See what you've built. Would that be okay? I'd like that. I stayed at the Blackstone estate until midnight. We played board games, drank wine, Talked about everything except the elephant we'd addressed at dinner. As I was leaving, Natasha walked me to my car. "Steven wants me to see a therapist," she said. "That's good. Is it? I feel like such a failure. 41 years old and I'm just now realizing I don't know who I am." "You're not a failure. You're figuring it out. There's a difference." "Maya, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "How did you know? That your work mattered? That you were making the right choices even when everyone was telling you otherwise?" "I thought about it. I didn't know. I just knew that the alternative, living someone else's definition of success, felt like dying slowly. I think I've been dying slowly for 20 years. Then stop. Choose differently." "How?" "Start by asking yourself what you care about. Not what looks good on Instagram. Not what impresses people. What actually matters to you." She was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know." "Then figure it out. You have time." "Do I?" "I'm 41. I'm 38. I didn't become executive director until I was 30. You have decades to build something meaningful. Will you help me?" "Help you how?" "I don't know. Can I volunteer at your organization? See what actual nonprofit work looks like." "You want to volunteer?" "I need to do something real. Something that's not about status or appearances. I need to figure out if I'm capable of being more than a professional wife." "Okay. Okay. Come to our main office next week. We'll find something for you to do." "But Natasha, this isn't a hobby. If you commit to this, you actually have to show up and do the work." "I will. I promise." He hugged me, the first real hug we'd shared in years. 3 months later, Natasha was volunteering 15 hours a week at Bright Futures. She started in our tutoring program, working directly with high school students on college essays. She was terrible at first. Too polished, too formal, unable to relate to kids from backgrounds nothing like hers. But she kept showing up. One day I found her crying in her car after a session. "What happened?" "One of my students, Maria, she wrote about her mother dying of cancer. About watching her siblings while her father worked night shifts. About not having anyone to help her with homework or college applications." Natasha wiped her eyes. "She's 17 years old and she's been raising her family for 3 years. And she apologized for her essay being too depressing." "What did you tell her?" "I told her it was the most powerful thing I'd ever read. That any college would be lucky to have her." She looked at me. "Maya, I've wasted so much time on things that don't matter. While kids like Maria are fighting just to survive, I've been worried about whether my dress was impressive enough for a gala. But you're here now. That matters." "Does it?" "I'm a 41-year-old woman who needs to learn basic human decency from teenagers." "No. You're a 41-year-old woman who's choosing to learn. Who's choosing growth over comfort. That takes courage." She started crying again. "I don't feel courageous. I feel ashamed." "Good. Let that shame fuel change instead of paralysis." 6 months after Christmas, the Blackstone Foundation increased their annual commitment to $50 million, just as Patricia promised. With that funding, we tripled our scholarship program, expanded to all 50 states, and partnered with 20 more universities. We also launched a new initiative, a leadership program for career changers who wanted to transition into nonprofit work. Natasha was our first participant. She took a 60% pay cut from her board member stipend to join our team as a program coordinator. She worked on college access initiatives, coordinated with university partners, and mentored students. She was surprisingly good at it. "Turns out," she told me over coffee one day, "I'm good at logistics and relationship management." Who knew that corporate skills could transfer to actual meaningful work? Anyone who was paying attention. "Shut up." She smiled. "But seriously, thank you. For not giving up on me. For letting me volunteer even after I was such a nightmare." "You weren't a nightmare. You were lost." "I was a nightmare who was lost." She paused. "Steven's proud of me. Real pride, not performative pride. He says I'm more myself now than I've been in years." "Are you?" "I think so. I'm making $60,000 a year instead of living off a trust fund. I'm working with kids who think Chipotle is expensive instead of attending galas at the Ritz. And I'm happier than I've been in 2 decades. "Good. Also, Mom wants to volunteer. She keeps asking about opportunities to help with fundraising." "Really?" She's serious. She's been telling everyone at the country club about my daughter who runs the $820 million nonprofit. You've become her new bragging point. I laughed. Better than being the family embarrassment. You were never an embarrassment. We were just too insecure to see your success for what it was. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard Blackstone. Board meeting next week. Patricia wants to propose new funding model for leadership program. Your sister is impressive. Well done. I showed Natasha the text. Your sister is impressive, she read. Wow. You are impressive. You're doing the work. I'm trying. That's all. She looked at me. Maya, can I ask you something? Always. Why did you let us think you were a failure for so long? Because it was easier than fighting. Easier than trying to make you see me differently. I thought if I just lived my life quietly, did my work without recognition, that would be enough. Was it? No. It was lonely. But it was survivable. I'm sorry it had to be survivable. It should have been celebrated. It is now, I said. That's what matters. 1 year after that Christmas dinner, our family gathered at my townhouse. The one they thought was sad and tiny. It's a 3-story historic row house with original hardwood floors, a chef's kitchen I never use, and a rooftop deck with views of the Potomac. This is your apartment? Mom said. Townhouse. I bought it 7 years ago. It's beautiful. Thank you. We had dinner, catered because I can't cook. We talked about Bright Future's latest expansion, about Natasha's program coordination work, about Dad's retirement plans. At one point Dad raised his glass to Maya, who showed us that success isn't about salary or status. It's about impact. And who changed more lives in 15 years than most people do in a lifetime. And to Natasha, Mom added, who had the courage to change course and find meaningful work. And to us, I said, for figuring out how to be a family that celebrates actual achievement instead of performed success. We clinked glasses. Later, as everyone was leaving, Natasha hung back. Thank you, she said. For what? For that Christmas dinner. For letting Richard Blackstone reveal the truth. You could have kept hiding. Could have let me keep embarrassing myself. Instead, you showed me what I needed to see. You're welcome. I'm glad you're my sister, Maya. The successful one. The meaningful one. The one who actually matters. You matter too. I'm starting to believe that. He hugged me. I'll see you Monday at the office? Monday. I watched my family leave. Mom and Dad in their country club best. Natasha in jeans and a Bright Futures t-shirt. All of them different than they'd been a year ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. Patricia and I were just discussing. How would you feel about joining the Blackstone Foundation board? We need voices that understand impact over optics. I smiled. Typed back. I'd be honored. Thank you. He replied immediately. Thank us? Maya, you've taught us more about meaningful philanthropy than we've taught you. The honor is ours. I set my phone down and looked around my sad little townhouse. My beautiful home that I'd earned, bought, and filled with a life I'd built on my own terms. I thought about that Christmas dinner. About the look on Dad's face when Richard Blackstone called me Director Williams. About Natasha's wine glass shattering. I thought about 15 years of being invisible, dismissed, treated like the family failure. And I thought about how good it felt to finally be seen. Not because I'd proven them wrong, though I had, but because I'd proven myself right. Success isn't about who you marry or what you earn or how you look on Instagram. It's about the work you do, the lives you change, the meaning you create. And by that measure, I'd been successful all along. They just hadn't been looking. The end.